You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
Welcome back to Options Insider Radio, the interview program here on the old Options Insider Radio Network. We welcome on guests from throughout the world of options and derivatives and proceed to pick their brains for the benefits of you, the listener. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, and we like to mix it up a little bit, come to you from different locations and different venues. This time we're coming at you from the scenic and indeed quite sunny. It's quite warm down here. The STA, the Securities Traders Association 2018 conference in quite warm Washington, D.C. And next up on the docket, we have an old friend of the network and a newcomer. We are joined by Ravi, Jain, the Director of Risk and Derivatives, and Andrew Actman, the Director of Business Development over there at Sterling Trading Tech. Gentlemen, welcome to the Options Insider Radio program.
Mark, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here again.
Ravi, we've seen you and talked to you before, but Andrew, you're new to us and indeed to our listeners. Why don't we start with you? Give us a little bit of an overview of your background in the space and how you found your way to Sterling.
Sure. So I'll give you the Cliff Note version. 1995, actually started at Daytech. Daytech Online.
That is back in the day, yes.
Yeah, 50 Broad Street, and sort of got my feet wet in what was really the beginning of the day trading craze, and went from day trading, from Daytech over to Broadway Trading, where we started the first, what was then the active day trading firm. We grew that and spun that, what is really now today called Lightspeed Trading, the broker-dealer, and I was part of that original management team. And then in 2001, I took a hiatus, and I went into the marketing world and worked with a close friend of mine, and I did that for about 5 years. And last year, actually, it's now exactly a year, because this was my first conference when I first started with Sterling Trading Tech a year ago, that I got back into the business. And the reason I did so specifically with Sterling Trading Tech is that, A, I've got relationships with all of these folks, and I've stayed in communication with them for the past 5 years that I was gone. And I saw a lot of the things that they were doing, and liked a lot of what they were doing, specifically in the platform space and the options risk space, which is what Ravi is focused on. So that's kind of what led me back. And I have to say that taking the 5 years off and coming back in is been outstanding. Like refreshing, new outlook, and I like to say new energy.
So you were out in the wilderness. You had your time in the desert, and now you're back. Welcome back, sir. It might be interesting to come and see it with fresh eyes after having done something else. For some of us who are down the rabbit hole, we don't always see all the nuances that people see from the outside sometimes. So let's dive into it. It's been a little while since we had you guys on the network. A lot of our listeners will probably best know you guys for your former live vol platform. I have to keep reminding myself now, Sterling Vol Trader platform. How are things going in the land of Sterling Vol Trader? What's new? Catch us up on the latest.
Sure. So we've gone through a process of integrating Sterling Vol Trader or XLive Vol X into the Sterling backend and systems, and that's been fairly successful. Now it's all well integrated into the Sterling infrastructure, which was a pretty big lift. But it's stable, it's fully up and running, and it's growing now. We've added several new clearing firms, we've added a significant number of new clients on it, and now we're starting to add new features. Now that the integration's done, now we're starting to add new features. For example, we've released a new a more extensive fundamental data window. We've added some futures data in there, and now we're we're in the process of integrating it or having seamless integration with our risk tool, which will enable far better risk analytics that can be used with Live Vol X or Sterling Vol Trader or other platforms.
See, you did it too.
I still did too.
I don't fall into that category.
Yeah, for you,
that's right.
It's all new and fresh, so that makes it a little bit easier. Well, I've had many people even sitting in that chair today talking about integrations and the challenges therein. Usually there's some surprise, something comes at you out of left field. How many people have come in here and told me, oh, it's going to be done in 3 months or 6 months or 2 weeks or whatever, and then it always seems to take longer. I'm curious, what were some surprises you guys encountered in the process of bringing all these platforms and everything together?
Sure. So in particular with Sterling Vol Trader, prior to us acquiring it was a part of the CBO platform, and severing the ties or the connections with the CBO platform and integrating with Sterling turned out to be quite a big lift. It on the surface seemed, that'd be easy, but it never is easy, Everything from market data to the way the positions flow into the platform to the way the orders flow out to the OMS, et cetera, all had unexpected challenges, but we've resolved them. And I think the critical thing also is that Vol Trader, unlike most other trading platforms, is heavy on the analytics. It's got implied vol data, historical implied vol data, a tremendous amount of volatility type data. We had to recreate all those calculations ourselves, which we know how to do well, but you have to be careful, make sure they're correct, make sure they're accurate, make sure they're feeding through efficiently. So breaking those ties with the CBO infrastructure took a little longer than we expected.
You got to kind of reinvent the wheel in some regards, which is never a thing you want to spend time, I'm sure doing. Well, it seems like it's paying off for you guys. I was looking at the numbers. It seems like the first half of 2018, you guys are knocking it out of the park. Growth across all your platforms. Is there any one particular area where you're seeing the most growth? Is it the Sterling Vol Trader? Is it something else? What's driving all these new additions and new growth on the platform there?
Sure. So I think a big part of it is, to be honest, getting the word out there that we have this breadth of offering, because historically people thought of us as sort of a silo with Sterling Pro, which is our flagship product, right? So we now have this breadth of offering. And then I think second to that, we're seeing a lot of active folks interested in real-time risk, right? Portfolio management, risk shocks, Reg T, PM. And we have a tool that really Ravi has spearheaded and driven that is getting a tremendous amount of traction, especially with this environment. And so when you can add that to the equation with our products, right, it's a great package together. So when you have someone using Vol Trader and you give them this tool to get real-time PM requirements and risk shocks, it's a home run, right? And so seeing a tremendous push with those products.
And that's a hot area. A lot of people come through our network over the past year or so talking about different ways they're trying to tackle that beast of the real-time risk. No one wants to wait for runs at the end of the day or even at the end of every hour or 20 minutes. That's all dated. When you're executing in sub-second, having the risk take much longer, it's not going to fly anymore. So we've seen people talking about using AI, about using all this funky and fancy tech, because it is a challenging thing to tackle, being able to calculate this risk on a real-time basis. Walk us through, how have you guys been able to tackle this, and how challenging was it to really get your arms around this enormous beast of real-time risk analytics?
So we took a brand new approach to it. We basically clean slate approach. And first of all, we built the entire risk engine abstracted running in the cloud. So we can actually calculate the entire options market risk, which is almost 1 million symbols at this point. We can calculate risk shocks, portfolio margin, almost in real time using some very, very sophisticated big data and computational techniques. We built this engine all, like I said, abstract in the cloud with APIs, as opposed to developing another installed system. The beauty of that is a client can simply send in a request to the API and get an answer back. They can send a request saying, this is my portfolio, what's the estimate of the PM right now? And you'll get a response almost immediately. We also then built additional pieces around it, aggregation software, as well as a really easy to use web-based GUI. And the nice thing about a web-based GUI is you can use it on your tablet, you can use it on your phone, you can use it anywhere. It gives you portability. So that became, that whole concept of abstracting risk, delivering it via a cloud infrastructure, sort of, and from that we actually coined a term called risk analytics as a service. Most people know software as a service. We're taking the lead in risk analytics as a service, as opposed to traditional install software.
You mentioned kind of a good point, I think, about having it be kind of a thin client type thing, as opposed to going. I'd imagine these days, if you go to a big fund or any big user of your analytics suite and say, here's this massive heavy install you have to put. I'd imagine that's probably going to be a non-starter for a lot of people.
That's a tough sell.
Here's this big heavy thing. So I'd imagine that probably was a requirement going into it, that it has to be, like you mentioned, web-based, cloud-based, and on a tablet. I kind of joke. I've been joking for a while on the network that we're getting to this point where you could, someday maybe that'll be. I don't know if that's the idealized version, but someday at some point you'll be able to run the proverbial prop shop or hedge fund from a beach in Tahiti, and if you can run your analytics in real time on a tablet, as long as you got good Wi-Fi on the beach, I guess we're getting pretty close to that point, right?
Or a good hotspot.
And I think the important thing is that delivering it this way actually makes it accessible to smaller and mid-sized firms, who do not have the ability to install a big piece of software. And that's important because now risk analytics, which are important to de-risk broker-dealers and prop shops, et cetera, are now available to everyone.
So speaking of availability to everyone, obviously the space that this kind of product would be traditionally tailored for the trading firms, those kind of things, that's been, shall we say, under contraction over the last 4 or 5 years. So how do you guys go about? Is part of the sale maybe that it is lower cost because it is this kind of thin, streamlined type things that help in this environment where these firms of all types, exchanges, brokers, trading firms, they're all facing increasing regulatory cost, increasing cost to do business every day. Technology cost is a huge one. So I'd imagine, again, if you go then with a big heavy thing that also costs a ton, that probably also maybe is a deal breaker too. So is that a way to maybe open up the product to new users by making it a little bit more accessible in that regard?
You hit the nail on the head. Number one, cost. And number two, cost of running it and cost of implementation. Traditionally, a risk system would take a year to implement. You'd have to have technologists, you'd have to have risk folks, et cetera. You can get up and running extremely fast and with very little capital expense too. So the cost is a big factor. Again, making it accessible to an audience who could not afford it before.
Yeah, well, that's the landscape is evolving so much now. The notion of a couple of guys in a room, that's a prop shop these days. So you have to be able to appeal. And half the time they're trading crypto, which is right. Interesting. So speaking of that, really quickly, I'm curious. So many people just in the last 6 months coming through our studio, I have to say, the percentage is getting higher and higher of the ones that are just purely into crypto. And even people who are very, very serious, very deep down the derivatives rabbit hole have had their, shall we say, their eyes open to crypto in interesting new ways. So I'm curious, I think I'm legally obligated to ask you guys about this asset class. So what are you guys doing on the crypto front that can capture the minds of the masses out there?
So great question, because we get it often, right? So with our products today, it's equities, options, futures, and international markets. And the request we get all the time is, well, what about cryptos? So we are taking a hard, and I'm doing air quotes, look at adding a crypto solution to our product offering. And the way that we are going to go about designing that is essentially similar in fashion to the way that Ravi has designed our risk tool, where you can actually add this tool into any of our products and have the ability to trade cryptos. And so, I think the way we view this is walk before we run, right? And so we're taking that approach, and I would say that that's on our roadmap for the fourth quarter and the beginning of next year. But that is definitely something we're taking a hard look at and partnering with some folks to make that happen.
Rob, you're a busy guy, Ravi. I don't know what you're doing here talking to me. You got some dev work to do.
In the crypto space, I do want to add that the crypto world, the crypto trading world, is going through sort of a transition. It's right now, most of crypto trading is like the old days where you had stock certificates. You have to actually own the coins. You have to have a wallet. You have to be directly connected to the exchange. The new way of trading cryptos is sort of dematerialization, where you don't actually have to own a wallet. You just have a financial interest in a crypto coin or a crypto basket. That's the direction things are going, and that'll make it accessible to a broader trading audience. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing more and more of an equities type experience in trading cryptos. We're seeing several efforts and that's different than what like the Coinbases are doing or some of the other larger crypto trading platforms are doing. There's only a few people that are doing it this way, and I think this is the way that we're going to see more. I think in the next 6 to 8 months, we're going to see a lot more of movement in that direction.
Yeah, just to add on to that, so I think for us, although we're a technology front-end provider, it's important for us that the, quote, back end of the account side is easy for the end user, or they're not going to want to trade, right? We don't want them to have to go somewhere else where they already are to trade cryptos. So most likely there is a partnership in our future to make that solution easy for the end user and the account side.
Yeah, we're hearing that a lot, that, the interest is obviously there, but crypto as a whole, the infrastructure just isn't ready for the institutional prime time yet. For the guy who wants to buy 2 coins on Coinbase, it works fine. For the guy who wants to hit a bid for 10,000 and not have to deal with all these, these custodian issues and everything else, it's still not there yet. So yeah, we're hearing a lot of people, even at this conference, talking about ways to do that. The fragmentation of the data, kind of, making that available in one kind of one-stop shop. So there's a lot for guys like you, vendors. This is sounds like an opportunity, to come in there and maybe be the intermediary and help make some of that flow smoothly. Speaking of products, one of the ones you guys are working on recently that kind of caught my eye was a new what you're terming the advanced trading simulator to trade the next generation of professional traders. I like this. This is kind of interesting. We get questions like this a lot. Where can I go from all audiences, pro guys, but also a lot of retail. Where can I go to get some sort of quality paper trading type functionality? We see a lot of brokers offer this. What incentivized you guys to go out and kind of create your own version of this?
Yeah, so great question. So today when you want to use one of our platforms as a delayed data product, and what we kept getting from our customers was, hey, is there a live paper trading solution that you have? So essentially what we did was we built a full live simulator backend so that all of our platforms can connect into that and basically get live data for equities, options, international stocks, and trade accordingly. And we have the ability to tweak the aggressiveness of fills, so we've added different functionality. And what that does is it allows us to really hit more than one user group. So we'll hit educators, who this has been a really big request for. Hey, where can I get a great live paper trading platform? And then also brokers who are looking to educate people and then convert them to live accounts. So really, our president, Jim, and the team spent a tremendous amount of time building this simulator so that we can use it on our web and mobile solutions, on our option solutions, and our flagship Sterling Pro products so that people can get a live experience, but in a real demo environment.
So the way to access it now is through like the Sterling Pro, the Sterling Vol Trader. But I guess the goal is to maybe white label this and put this out there farther and broader.
You nailed it. So 100%. The idea is team up with either educators or other broker dealers. It can be white labeled out, and they can offer this out as a full white labeled solution. And one of the advantages is that we also white label our existing platforms today. So they can now train and teach on the same platform that individuals can go live with. So it's a huge advantage.
I'll have to kick the tires on this because we get questions around this area all the time, like I said, from all different users. Because a lot of times they'll try one on broker X, and you're right, it has delayed fills, or the kind of they settle the trades to kind of unrealistic, not real world type scenarios. And that's a problem if you're trying to use this to learn how these trades actually perform and you're getting strange, aberrant fills. That's not really how it would work in real life. So we get that a lot. Hey, I don't like this, I don't like that. There may even be room for just a standalone product out there. If you make a cutting edge, just the platform, people come in and maybe just use that, and then of course, obviously, that could be the point of entry to the Sterling Pro. But I'd imagine just from the feedback we get, there's a demand just for that product alone out there, which would be, I think, a lot of people would be looking for something live that can give them real time, real options fills. I think that's something people will be interested in. Just anecdotally. A little birdie told me. But we covered a lot of different ground. We talked risk as a service. We talked what's new with Sterling Vol Trader. We talked a little crypto. We talked paper trading. That said, you guys always have a lot of different irons in the fire. Ravi, you're a very busy guy. Like I alluded to, you're always cooking up new stuff. So if there's something we left off that list, or maybe you want to leave our audience with a little bit of a hint, a little bit of a tease of what's coming down the pike from you guys, now is the time, gentlemen. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I think we teased a little bit in the crypto world. You sort of beat me to the
All
punch on.
You
beat me to the punch on that one. But look, I think you'll continue to see interesting ways for us to approach the trading platform space to make it easier to access, sort of like that individual sitting on the beach, right? That's kind of how we're taking a holistic approach on how we view things in the future.
Well, great. Well, like I said, I'm looking forward to how some of this is already in the marketplace. Some of it's, like you mentioned, the crypto is forthcoming. But I'm looking forward to seeing, and I'm also looking forward to kicking the tires on that paper trading platform. That sounds interesting. And looking forward to seeing how all this kind of takes shape in the marketplace in the coming months. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.